which is also what we're seeing happen right now in Ukraine. And it's part of that perspective is something you won't see on either side of the commentary, unfortunately.
Could you give us your opinion on what's going on?
If it's okay. I mean,
please.
It's a very difficult subject.
I mean, you have a kind of window into this world that I certainly don't, so I'd love to hear it.
I mean, when it happened, it was a bit of a crisis of identity for me, because I was utterly convinced that there would never be an invasion coming from Russia towards Ukraine. I was totally convinced. And at the time, I had only had access to Western media outlets, and I generally tended to ignore Russian state outlets just because of the tenor of the information. So at that point, I was unwilling to separate the way the information is presented from the information itself, right? Because the Russians do information warfare very badly. They lie about everything all the time. So, but sometimes the truth, they're actually saying the truth, but because they're lying all the time, you can't tell when what they're saying is actually true.
It's like the New York Times.
Yes. There are a few articles that come out every once in a while. They're actually good, but yeah. So at that point, I was just crestfallen when the war started. I didn't understand what was going on. I thought this is just the worst thing that could possibly have happened.
And did you begin listening to media from Russia?
I began to listen to media from all over, and it really started to destroy me because there is no truth in any of the media. Coming from the right, coming from the left, there is no truth. Or if there is, it's coming through in very subtle ways. And to be able to discern that truth, you need to have a lot of historical context. You need to have boots on the ground. You need to talk to people who are actually there seeing things. And even that is extremely limited because, of course, it depends on who you are and where you are. Even when it's boots on the ground, it's very easy to manipulate information with an iPhone. Mm-hmm. Very easy. But I've come to see this thing not as the patriarch declared it to be, as a kind of, we're doing this so that there won't be LGBT parades down the streets of Kiev. I don't think, I understand what he was saying. And what he was saying was essentially this. What the Russian government is doing is setting a red line to the spread of NGO-style liberal democracy. Mm-hmm. And Ukraine, unfortunately, has been a buffer zone and a kind of test case for the spread, not of a political system, but of a system of values that is espoused by the elites only. And because there's a lot of money coming in from the West, there is an inherent tension between the elites of Ukraine and the elites of Russia. What ended up happening, I think, is that Putin was totally convinced that he would come in there and that the people would accept him with open arms. And the reason I think that is because he ended up, within 1 or 2 months of the war, he ended up firing 75% of his spy, the FSB, right? 75% of them in the spy section were fired. And this was a quiet bit of information that was put out and nobody commented on it. I think he had bad information. I think he was convinced that what he was doing was liberating people. But once he was in there, because this is a Russia versus the West thing, he can't retreat. It's a matter of not just saving face, because that would be a terribly brutal thing to do, but because he had set as his goal a kind of red line between what he sees as the incursion of a very particular system of values, not politics. Because the problem is that with all these colored revolutions, no matter how you look at it, the thing that comes in together with the money is an insistence, unfortunately, on the adoption of the Western liberal cultural milieu. It happened in Georgia, it happened in Ukraine, it happened everywhere. So do you stop the incursion of values with mass ground war? Probably not a very effective way of doing it. But it is true that there has been an ongoing conflict there since 2014, and some people have suggested, their information, I don't know if it's good or not, that there was going to be a massive offensive coming from the Ukrainians to just end the East Ukrainian problem. So I look at it as a continuation of the age-long conflict that Russia has been waging with the West. This is a conflict that goes way back. It goes back to the time of troubles in the 17th century, when Russia was ruled by Catholic Poles. It goes back to even before that, when you had issues with church hierarchy and who was going to be under whom. It goes back to the 19th century, when Russia kept getting betrayed by its allies. It goes back to World War II, when it was betrayed by its allies. World War I. It's a very complicated and very difficult thing to fully understand. And the fact that so many innocent people have to be cannon fodder is a horrible reality. But I'm not sure that there could have been another way out of it. Not with everybody taking the stance that they are, because nobody's backing down. Certainly not the West, and certainly not Putin. So,
hey, thanks for watching that clip. Would you like this beautiful, very high quality, definitely not made in China, not that there's anything wrong with that, Pints with Aquinas beer stein for free, sent to your door? Would you also like a copy of The Jill sent to your door 4 times a year? This is the Pints with Aquinas newspaper, by the way. If you do, go to mattfradd.locals.com and become an annual supporter for any amount. We'll send you that stuff for free, and you get a bunch of other free things in return. You'll get more information by going over to mattfradd.locals.com. Thanks.